Welcome to our session number 13. Um, so for 12 sessions, it went very successful in terms of number of participants and the content, whatever we have presented, and people told me that it is very useful. So assuming this one also will be useful for you. Today we are going to talk about Amazon DynamoDB. Last week we had a session related to RDS, Relation Database Services, and this week related to that, we are going to talk about DynamoDB and data pipeline, Athena, and EMR. And we are going to talk about overall database concept. Once again, it's a touch base. So feel free to ask any questions if you have in between. Okay. So this is about agenda. So we are going to talk about DynamoDB in detail and data pipeline, why we have to use for data pipeline, and what is the need, and what we are going to achieve if you are going to use data pipeline, that we are going to talk about. Amazon DynamoDB, you are going to get your questions in your actual examination, but data pipeline you will not get. Data pipeline, it's an interview perspective and your job sustaining perspective. So you must aware what is pipeline and how you are going to handle data pipeline. And Amazon Athena, you will not get any interview questions. Rarely you will get one interview questions out of 100 participants. So that that question also not very a high-fi question. It is a very simple question. So you are able to answer if you are focused on this session. And but the exam point of view, it is very important. Your job point of view, it is very important to understand. And the EMR, yes, it is job related. It will be very useful for you. But exam point of view, it's not that important. So you will not get any question from the EMR. Okay, recent database update, question bank update, you will get one question out of 500 participants. So I would say it is very rare, or you will not get any questions on EMR perspective. And AWS database services, yeah, final touch. So we are going to talk about what we discussed on last week and this week. And finally, we are going to see what is AWS database services in hands-on, so that you are able to understand whatever we discussed the concept, how it is actually working. So that's what today agenda. Okay, going to next slide. Okay, Amazon DynamoDB here walkthrough. Last week we discussed about RDS, Relational Database Services, right? So that RDS, we keep on saying that it is scalable and you need not worry about cost. It is cost effective, and the software will be updated automatically. And the backup, you have two options like snapshot and automatic backup kind of thing. So similarly, one level down, we are going to talk about Amazon DynamoDB. Okay, when we are talking about Amazon DynamoDB, it's a fully managed NoSQL service that works on key value pair on data structure documented provided by Amazon. Okay, so you have to remind only one thing: it is a NoSQL service which offered by AWS. That's all. But what is about the key value pair, that we are going to talk about the next screen, so that you will understand better. And it requires only a primary key and doesn't require a schema to create a table. Typically in SQL Server, you use some schemas to create a table, but here it doesn't require. But always the primary key is important whenever you are creating a table, so that you can avoid any duplicates in the table. It can store any amount of data and serve any amount of traffic. It doesn't matter how much data you are going to store. So how many people they are going to access the table. So you need not a specific mechanism, anything over there for traffic. Like a SQL Server, you have to update some configuration to manage the traffic. But here, it's not like that. It will tackle any amount of traffic over here. And With DynamoDB, you can expect a good performance even when it scale up. It doesn't matter how many instances you have created. Okay, for example, even if you have created 100, still the performance will be same. There will be no performance lagging or latency, even a single second if you are going with DynamoDB in the high trafficking area. And it is very simple and a small API that follow a key value method to store, access, and perform advanced data retrieval. So next screen, we are going to see what is that key value pair so that you will understand better. And at this moment, you just think about the primary key is the key to create any tables in DynamoDB. And it's very important to know there are three fundamental units in DynamoDB. One is the table, and second one is attribute, and third one is item. It is you no need to confuse much on this one because table you already know it's a collection of rows and columns. Whatever you are seeing in Oracle table or MS Access table or SQL Server table, anything that similar kind of table over here we are talking about. And attribute, you know that it's a simplest element that stores data without any further division. For example, you have a employee table. Okay, in that employee table, you have employee number, employee first name, employee last name, employee salary, date of joining, and the department. This information you have. So all together, okay, you are adding five more rows on that one. For example, employee number 1000 and 1001, 1002, 3000, 3004, like that. Five rows you have with you have several first name, last name, like that in that for five rows. Okay, so in that case, um, whatever we are talking about table here, it has a employee number, employee name, employee first name, employee last name, and employee number 1000, employee first name Satya, and employee last name Srinivasan. So all this information, all five rows and number of columns, how many created, all are is called as a table. Okay, and one particular row, it is called as a item in the table. Okay, in that case, what is the attribute? For example, employee number for that row number one, so that is an attribute, and employee salary, for example, 10,000. So that is another attribute for that particular column. So that's very simple table, attribute, and item. Hope you are able to understand. So next screen, you are able to see yeah, diagram so that it will be useful for you and you are able to understand better. So for example, here, I think you are able to see my screen clearly over here. Um, okay, here is the table overall, the table called as a music, or you can call as a employee, whatever it is. So, but in this picture, we have artist, song title, album title, year, uh, everything we have. Okay, here we have each and every rows is called as a items. Okay, here everything is called as a columns, right? So it's a collection of rows and columns altogether is called as a table. And the attribute is name value pairs, that is called attributes, as I said in the previous screen. Okay, now I think you are able to understand what is the attribute. Okay, for example, this one is the attribute, and this one is attribute, this one is attribute. One particular row and column, you are specifying one particular value, that is called as a attribute. Okay, so I think you are clear now. Okay, move to the next slide. When we are talking about NoSQL and the DynamoDB, which I have mentioned in the first letter itself, first point itself. So you have to understand what is the difference between SQL and NoSQL service. So that's why I have differentiate these two tables, these two here. Okay, uh, take a close look on the SQL and NoSQL. How the data will be stored in SQL. It is a rows and columns wise it store. For example, in this table, I think you are able to see my mouse movement over here. Here, ISBN, there is the book reference, book number, and the title, cloud computing concept, and some author, and a format paperback or ebook. Okay, these are the actual SQL table, which consists of a number of columns, four columns and two rows. Okay, these two rows is called as an item, and the cloud computing concept and the title for this ISBN, that is called as an attribute. I think you are able to understand clear now. Now, the matter is how we are storing the data in SQL. So we are storing in the rows and columns. Okay, but how we are storing in the NoSQL? Okay, it's a key value pair. For example, ISBN and title and author and format. Okay, so whatever you are giving columns over here, that is considering as this horizontal line, and that same value you are giving instead of separate like this. Okay, so correctly understanding, it is a rows and columns the SQL server, but NoSQL is related with the key value. And before going to the second and third, you are able to understand the scalability. It is a vertical scalability and it is a horizontal scalability. I think you are able to understand. For example, ISBN is vertical, title is vertical, author is vertical, format is a vertical, but here everything is you are formatting into horizontal. Okay, so and moving to the top one, schemas, it's a fixed schemas and it's a dynamic schema. You can change the schema anytime. And querying using SQL, you have to query, but here is a focus on collection of documents. For example, JSON document is one of the document which we are referring here. So this is the main difference between SQL and SQL, NoSQL. So I think you are able to understand the main difference. Okay, I'll take your question at the end. Meanwhile, going to the next screen, next slide. So when we are talking about the first slide about the keys, I told that we will discuss in the next slide. Okay, so here we are talking about primary key. So you must understand that without primary key, you cannot create any tables. The primary key is a unique attribute that is necessary while creating a table. It cannot be null at any given point. Okay, it's supposed to have any valid value into that table. For example, if you are setting as salary, it's a numeric, and it's supposed to have some numeric value, and it cannot be null. Okay, and it cannot accept any characters or anything because you set as numeric. Okay, number. So hence, while inserting an item into the table, a primary key attribute is a must, as I said. For example, employee ID is the primary key for the table employee records. Two items cannot have a similar primary key, that you already know that. It's a universal concept actually. DynamoDB supports two types of primary key. One is the simple primary key and another one is a composite primary key. Um, Okay, so you have to keep in mind it DynamoDB supports two types of primary key. Okay, usually all the tables have two different types of primary key, but here the terms little different. One is a simple primary key and the other is composite primary key. Okay, a simple primary key is also known as a partition key. Okay, what is that partition key? That means it's basically a single attribute you can partitioning between the values. Okay, so in the next I have one more diagram to simplify it for your understanding. That time you able to understand. At this time you just think about partition is a partitioning the values within that items. Okay, DynamoDB uses partition key values to distinguish items in the table. Example, employee ID in a employee records table. Okay, so that is a separate partition. Okay, and that is fall under simple primary key. So you need not confuse between simple primary key and partition key. And the second one is composite primary key. A composite primary key is also known as a partition key and a sort key. Okay, so partition key we usually using in the simple primary key, but here we are also using a sort key. This type of key is generally made up of two items, not only one item. Okay, the primary component is the partition key and the secondary component is the sort key. Okay, so for example, you have two details about car. One is a car details table with the brand name and a model number as a composite primary key. It's a general concept inside. Okay, so um, at this point you have to remember you have a primary key. It's very important in any table, and there are two types of primary key. One is the simple primary key and another one is the composite primary key. You saw examples over here, and simple primary key you have a partition key, okay, which is basically a single attribute, but here you have a partition key and sort key in the composite primary key. Okay, so moving to the next slide. You have indexing concept in SQL, in DynamoDB. What is the secondary index? Yeah, secondary index can be understood as the attribute that lets you query your data or with or without help of primary key. Okay, so you can use primary key or you need not use, but still you are able to querying the information from that table. DynamoDB has these secondary indexes that help you achieve this additional access without using the primary key. And DynamoDB stream perspective, it's a very important concept how we are going to update the table. A service used to track data stream that is loaded into a table and retrieved from a table. Okay, and this is an additional optional feature provided DynamoDB to keep track of data modification in a table. That's you will not get any questions on this point, but still good to know. And here each event is represented by a stream record, and if the service is enabled, then you get a new event every time when there is new item is created, an item updated or an item deleted. So that is called as a DynamoDB stream. It typically called as a data plan. Data plan consists of CRUD operation. CRUD means it is a create, read, update, and delete options to perform different actions on your table. So DynamoDB is an DynamoDB stream is an optional concept, but still good to know. And it has consists of CRUD, and the CRUD is you already know what is that. Okay, move to the next slide. You are able to understand the picture now. As using the same example here, I'm using the same music table, and here is the partition key, and this is the sort key. Okay, so both are called as a composite primary key here, so that you are able to understand how it differs. And DynamoDB manages a sorted index for both the keys. Here partition key is artist, as I said, and song title is their sort key, and that's all. So I think you are able to understand now. And moving to the next slide. DynamoDB supported two types of operations. Mainly one is the query table using a partition key and an optional soft key filter. Okay, if the table has a second index, use query using its key. It is most efficient way to retrieve items for a table or a secondary index. That means it's a typical query. You can use a query, for example, create a table name, and what are the parameters or field you want to give. You can just mention that key. Then when you run, it will create. Same thing, for example, select a star from employee, so it will retrieve all the records from that employee table. It's a typical query that also supported in DynamoDB. And one more option you have, you need not go for the query. You can directly use scan. That is, you can scan a table or a secondary index. Scan reads every item rather than querying. Okay, if you have a small to medium size table, then you can go for scan. But always advisable to go with query, so that it will be fast, and there will be no latency if you are using for query. And you can use conditional expression in both query and scan operation. Doesn't matter which one you are going, but you can still use for and while kind of conditional statement, so that it will be very fast as usual, even you are using any number of options. All right. So this one is a simple application architecture about Amazon DB, how it works. For example, you are the client accessing from the various devices such as your laptop or desktop or mobile devices, and whatever you are accessing, it is a bidirectional, and you are attaching with elastic load balancing, so that the balance will be well managed here with the elastic load balancing. From there, the load will properly sent to that EC2 application instances, where the EC2 application instances connecting with the DynamoDB, so that you are able to bidirectionally store and retrieve the values. So it's a simple architecture, but good to know for any interview point of view, right? I'm not sure whether you have any questions, but at, at the end we will talk about this. So when we are talking about RDS last class, and this week so far we are talking about Amazon DynamoDB. I would like to differentiate so that you are able to understand what exactly or when we exactly we can go with these things, and you're also able to understand what is the difference and the relationship between these two things. Okay, one is application type. Existing database apps, they can go for RDS, and business process centric apps. For example, it's a regular business process related any application, so you can go with the RDS. So how it works in NoSQL perspective, it's a new web scale application, large number of small writes and reads, it will work. And application characteristics perspective, it is relational data models and transactions, um, and the complex queries, joins and updates, anything you can use here. And simple data models rather than the complex one, and transactions, you can go with DynamoDB. And the range queries, simple updates, that such situation you can use NoSQL. And scaling perspective, application are DB architected clustering, partitioning, and uh, sharing kind of thing. You can go with that. And here scaling perspective, it's a seamless on-demand scaling based on application requirements. Um, and QoS perspective, um, performance depends on data model. For example, indexing query, how many indexing you are using, how many queries you are using, and based on that, the QoS will work. And reliability and availability, durability are always high, and performance automatically optimized by the system. So you need not specifically work on any optimization, performance optimization for your tables. And always it has same reliability and availability and durability like RDS. I think this screen will help you to understand the difference and relationship on Amazon RDS and Amazon DynamoDB. I will take your question at the end. Okay, so which situation when you will consider and what? So that we are describing here. One is a relational database service with minimal administration like patching or software update, anything. That time you can go with the RDS because you are able to choose 6 data engines, and everything will be managed by RDS automatically. And scale, compute and storage, multi availability zone availability. So these scenarios you can use when you want to these options. And if you want a fast, highly scalable NoSQL database service, then you can go with the DynamoDB because it's extremely fast performance and seamless scalability and reliability, low cost comparing with the RDS. And no, I have a database, I can manage my own. Then you can create your own choice of AMI in Amazon EC2, and you can attach your EBS there, and you can scale, compute, storage, complete control, whatever you can typically are doing. You can create an instance using AMI, then you can use your own database. So if you have one database, go with that, or based on your business requirement, you can choose either. Okay, so this is very important slide, and often they will ask in interviews why you have to use Amazon RDS and which scenario you have to go for Amazon DynamoDB. So it's very important slide, right? Okay, so now we are coming at the end on DynamoDB. So features of DynamoDB. DynamoDB is a NoSQL database service that you have to understand whenever they are asking you in the interview. Can you tell about DynamoDB? Then first wording it's supposed to come from your mouth that DynamoDB is a NoSQL database service. And the DynamoDB is designed in such a way that user can get high performance, run scalable application that would not be possible with the traditional database system, because every time you have to plan your own if you are using your traditional database system. This additional feature of DynamoDB can seen under the following categories. So these are the categories I have mentioned. One is the on-demand capacity. You know that like other services, AWS services, this one also on-demand service. It's automatically scale up and scale up, scale down to manage the your traffic, regardless of how many users they are hitting simultaneously. And built-in support for AZ transaction. So DynamoDB provides a native or server-side support for transaction. It's a typical classical database kind of support. And on-demand backup, it will allow you to create a complete backup on your work at any given point of time. We have automated backup also. You can choose that every day, like at 12 p.m. 12 a.m. kind of thing, so that every night it will take automatic backup. Even per day, you can go for multiple backup every 3 hours, like that kind of backup also. And point in time recovery, this feature help you to protection of your data in case any actionable read write operation, because it's going to be stored in multi availability zone. And encryption at rest. So whenever you are connecting your application to that AWS, that time itself it's well secured, and it is encrypted when the table is not in use. They enhances security with help of encryption keys. Okay, so this about feature of DynamoDB. Any questions I'll take at the end. Okay, let's move on to the pipeline. Okay, before explaining this pipeline, um, I would like to tell about this one. Okay, for example, in your company, you are a data science company, or you are working in a e-commerce company. So I would like to know how the products are working. Okay, that means what is the demand at this moment, and what is the projected demand for your existing product, or you want to know what is the new product you can launch based on the customer interest. Okay, that time we are gathering so much of data. Okay, so that time you are using social media to gathering the information. Okay, and you are using your typical polls and surveys to gather the information. Okay, that time what is going to happen, how you will gather all the information, such a big information, or lots of information, and how we are going to classify, and how we are going to index them, and how we are going to get that meaningful information from that data whatever you have collected. So at that time you are going to use this kind of data pipeline. So for example, this picture, you may get some information, that is even data from DynamoDB, that is we have some information in your DynamoDB, and you have already stored all the collected information in S3 bucket. So like that, we have all other feeds getting all the information to the daily EMR. EMR means Elastic Map Reducer. That is the analytical tools. Okay, from there, that analytical tools will classify all the data and will give you meaningful reports, meaningful results. From there, you are getting the summary report, and you are forwarding that report to Redshift or anywhere else for further processing. So such scenarios, we are going for the data pipeline. We will talk about more now. Okay, so here, why we have to use data pipeline. So as I said, data is growing exponentially, and that too at a faster pace. Companies of all sizes are realizing that managing, processing, storing, migrating the data has become a more complicated and time consuming than in the past, because the number of data sources is really high. Earlier, just only opinions or polls or feedback, that is the only three mechanism earlier, but now we have Twitter and Facebook, such as lots of social media tools to gather the information and categorize them, index them, and getting all sort of the information from their collected data. So it is very difficult for the companies to manage because bulk amount of data. There is a lot of raw and unprocessed data. There are log files, demographic data, data collected from sensors, transaction histories, and a lot more. Okay, so this is the one of the reason they are not able to do in the faster phase. And a variety of formats. It is a multiple format data. That means it's a converting unstructured data to compatible format in a complex and time consuming task. It's very difficult to get the data in a similar format in the record format. Then um, okay, processing it's very difficult. And different data stores, there are a variety of data storage options. You know that we have our own servers in our data warehouse, and we have cloud-based storage like S3 and RTS. So like that, we have several data sources and data stores. We have several options to store the data, and getting all this information from all the data stores is quite challenging. And again, it's a time consuming and it's a costly. So managing bulk of data in a time consuming and very expensive. Lot of money is spent on transform, store, and process data because you need a huge computational task and human resources needed to complete these things. Okay, so all these factors make it more complex and challenging for companies to manage data under their own. So that's the reason data pipeline, AWS data pipeline can be useful. So data pipeline will take care of all these, whatever we have described these challenges, and it will give you a meaningful report. So that's why that picture also we have described. So AWS data pipeline make it easier for users to integrate data that is spread across multiple AWS services, analyze it from a single location. Okay, for example, you are, as I said, you are getting the data from S3 or RTS or any of these servers which are running in EC2 instances. You are getting so many data stores even from your data warehouse. Okay, it doesn't matter. Still, you are able to integrate everything, and you are able to analyze it and process it in a single location. That's the reason we are going for AWS data pipeline. This is a very important slide, and you will frequently get interview questions if you are applying an architect job. Okay, so moving to the next slide. Okay, now previous slide we talk about why we need a data pipeline and what are the challenges we have. Okay, so now we are talking about more into data pipeline. So in the bottom of that screen, I have even one picture that is actually called as a data pipeline picture. So whenever you are seeing this image, just remember it's a data pipeline. You also know that it's one of the web services which are offered by AWS, and this web service is really helpful to process and move data between different AWS compute and storage services, as well as on-premises data source at a specified intervals, which we talked about earlier. Okay, with the AWS data pipeline, you can easily access data from the location where it is stored, transform and process it at scale, and efficiently transfer the result to AWS services such as S3, RDS, etc., which we already talked about that. Okay, it allows you to create a complex data processing workloads that are fault tolerant and repeatable and highly available. You don't have to worry about ensuring resource availability, manage inter-task dependencies. Everything will be managed by this pipeline. AWS data pipeline also allows you to move and process data that was previously locked up in on-premises data silos. That means even some of the database is not available, is offline, still you are able to connect with the data pipeline to analyze and process it. So basically data pipeline is a analytical service which offered by AWS. Right. Going to the next slide. So this slide is talk about benefit of AWS data pipeline. So when you, if you see the diagram, you are able to see the data pipeline is inside, and full control over the computational resources. That is the main advantage, because whatever the data store you are going to use, you have a full control when you are using the data pipeline. And it is not separate charges for that if you are going within that limit. If you are going for the beyond that limit, you will be charged per minute or per second transaction kind of thing. If it is a goes for the large enterprise kind of transaction. And distributed work to one machine or many, so it doesn't matter. You can distribute any numbers, and provide a drag and drop console, so you need not copy paste and everything, just go and drag and drop. Built on a distributed reliable infrastructure, so that it is always available. There will be no failover. And support scheduling and error handling. You can if any software update on this data pipeline, still there will be no impact on your um, data availability, because it's again this will support by multi availability zone and multiple regional, so you need not to worry about the data availability. And it's a successful error handling, and it's a very effective error handling, so that you are able to see the logs, what's going on, and what are the errors you have, and you can fix them accordingly. So these are the huge benefits on the data pipeline. Going to the next slide, we have to talk about the components of AWS data pipeline. So this slide will talk about that. AWS data pipeline is a web service which already you know, and you can use automate the movement and transformation of data. Yes, we talked about in the previous slide also, but this is one of the component. That's why I have mentioned again over here. And you can define data-driven workflow so that the task can be dependent on the successful completion on previous task. So that when previous task is completed, then you can start the next task. Next task, and you define the parameters of your data transformation, and AWS data pipeline for the logic that you set up. Yes, it's straightforward. And data nodes is a very basic concept. You always begin designing a pipeline by selecting a data nodes. What is the data nodes that we are describing here? And AWS data pipeline, a data node define a location and type of data that a pipeline activity uses input or output. It supports the data nodes like DynamoDB, SQL, or Redshift or S3 data node. So there are various types of data node. In this slide, you have to understand the key concept is it's again, you know, data pipeline is a web service, and it is a data driven workflow. And so that your previous if any dependency task, you are able to understand what is the status of the task, and you have to understand the data nodes. And there are various types of data nodes. So this is about all about this slide. But how we are going to use the data node, that we are going to see in our hands-on. Okay, move to the next slide. uh, this one is a simple picture to illustrate about the components of AWS data pipeline. Okay, so here data storage, that is input you are giving, and here the data pipeline is pointing. I think you are able to see here, and whatever you have provided the input, the data is processed here in the EC2 uh, uh, and the computational thing, and here is the data store output. So whether it is RDS or it is a DynamoDB or whatever it is, so you are able to understand the simple picture how it work. It's a simple like others. It's just you are giving the inputs, and it's a process, and the data will be stored in the output form here. Okay, so it's a vice versa also. So you can use unidirectional or bidirectional, anything. Okay. So this one, earlier we talked about that, but I think now we are able to understand how we are gathering all this information, and EMR is analytical tool and processing and producing the result. So collect data from different data source like here, and EMR analyze and generate weekly reports. This is what a simple picture we are describing here. Okay, so we are done with the data pipeline, and we are moving to Amazon Athena. So it's also interactive data analysis tool, but there is a huge difference between this data pipeline and Athena. Sometimes ago, I also given this information Athena in our daily concept of day, like that, and in terms of day. I think you already aware about Athena, but if you forget or you didn't get a chance to go through those things, but here it is about Athena. Athena, you will get interview questions, but as I said, exam point of view, it's a little rare. So, but feel free to understand the concept. That is very important. Uh, okay, so you have a number of queries which you need to execute. Okay, you cannot go for the scan. Okay, so that time you can use Amazon Athena so that it will run the complex queries and provide the results in the fraction of second. Okay, comparing with the SQL Server, regular SQL Server in your on-premises or Oracle, still it is a faster by 4 times, so that it is a quick processing, and even millions of records it will process like this. So it is very fast and very cost effective, and it's serverless. So you need not set up any specific thing to manage your infrastructure. And you have to remember it's not a database service, and you are going to use this one is for a only query service. Yeah, but it's very important that you have to set up your database to run Athena. Okay, because it's not a database service. Okay, for which database, for which table you are going to execute the query, that is very important. So you have to configure them before using Athena, and we are going to see in our hands-on so that we are able to understand. You must point your data in S3, define schema record, and with the standard SQL you are good to go. Okay, vice versa, you have to point your S3 or any other data source, that also fine. You can store the tables in S3, and you can move to your on-premises, or you can have database in on-premises and move to S3. Anything you can do with this SQL very serverless Athena query service, so that it will be very simple. We are going to see the hands-on, you are able to understand. With Amazon Athena, there is no infrastructure setup to manage, and the customer pays only for the queries they run. Okay, keep in mind that the cost is little bit high comparing other AWS services, because the number of queries you are running, it will be charged. Okay, starting with 0.02 cents, so that but it doesn't matter how complex it is, but it's a pricing associated. That's what you have to know at this moment. And it's a regular simple concept. Again, it's Amazon Athena scales automatically like other services. It's executing queries in parallel. That's very important, which gives you a faster result even with a large data set and complex queries, as I said earlier. Athena is out of box integrated with the AWS Glue data catalog. That is another catalog which provided by AWS, allowing what is the purpose of that is allowing you to create a unified metadata repository across various service, and crawl data service to discover schemas, and to popular your catalog with the new and modified table and partition definition. It's simply they are giving, it's like just think about the glue, how it works typically in our particular life. Similar thing here also, it works like that. Okay, so these are about overview about Athena. Next slide, we are going to see the difference between Microsoft SQL Server and Amazon Athena, the difference, so that you are able to understand how it differ from your typical on-premises SQL Server and whatever AWS providing this Athena service. Okay, here the definition. Microsoft SQL Server is a database management and analyzing system, but Athena is an interactive query service that makes data analysis easy. In the SQL Server, we are able to use that means DML, DCL kind of thing, like you are able to insert, delete, or any records kind of thing. But used for DML operations on database, because it's not storing any values. That means you have collection of values, values in terms of records in terms of the collection of rows and columns in SQL Server, but here not like that. The huge benefit is reliable and easy to use. here easy to use, here also reliable, but as the database reside within that SQL server, you can say it's reliable, but it is not, it doesn't hold any values, but still it's reliable. High performance, same, easy to maintain, but here no maintenance, because everything will be taken care by AWS. EC server installation, no server config is required because it's a serverless. Multiple tools integration possible, multiple tools integration possible here also, so that how we are using SSRS and other things. Similarly, you can use Athena also. And some integration tool we have here, and some integration tool over here also. So you can use those tools accordingly based on your business needs. Both have certain limitation. One is limited RDS storage, limited instances, and cannot handle recursion. Still, for a simple recursion, it's able to manage, but not medium or complex. But here, no DDL supported because it's not holding any data, as I said earlier. Works with the external table only. Okay, because it doesn't have any table. User-defined functions not supported because it is only executing your queries. Okay, not any user-defined function, but the SQL Server, it works on user-defined functions. So these are the main difference between SQL Server and Amazon Athena. So you may have some questions. We'll talk about the end. So this one is a simple architecture about Athena. So you have a databases and external file systems and the REST APIs, and where you are connecting with Kinesis streams with the Kinesis firewalls, which we talked some classes ago. And these are the things you are connecting with the AWS Glue. So you are gluing all these three. Okay. And you are connecting with data lake. Data lake we already discussed in the concept of the. So where it has S3 and Glue data catalog. From there, Athena will be its analytical tool where it is analyzed and process the data and publish in the dashboard. Okay, so from there you can search anything, the process data using the query engine. So this about a typical Athena architecture. It's a very simple architecture, and I will take your question at the end about this. Okay. Now, features of Athena. It is an easy implementation because it does not require any installation. It can be accessed directly from AWS console, also directed by AWS CLI. Anything you can use CLI or console. Once again, it's a serverless. It is a pay per query. It doesn't matter any amount of data that is managed per query, and it's a fast. It's a very fast analytical tool. It can be perform complex queries in less time, breaking the complex queries into simpler ones and run them parallelly, then combine the result to give desired output. That is a very important concept. Usually, NoSQL will support such kind of thing. And secure with the help of IAM policy and AWS identity, it is very secure. Always, it is 99.99% available. And integration, you can integrate with other AWS services and including with AWS Glue, so that you are able to create a better unified data repository. Okay, this also help you to create a better versioning of data, better tables and views, etc. All right. So that about Athena. Now we are going to talk about Amazon EMR, where you are going to create a Hadoop cluster. Okay, Amazon Elastic Map Reducer. It is an important web service tool for big data processing analysis. Okay, so before explaining this slide, I will skip some more slides so that you will understand better. Then we'll go back to the slide. Okay. When Google has launched their search engine, okay, what will happen if you are searching some details? Okay, it was giving some false search result. For example, you want to know one particular website or some information, um, for example 7.com, okay, um, where it will give that company information and what is their functionality and what is their business and what are the informations or what are the services they are offering to the customers, everything you want to know. And you are typing that 7, and it will not displaying that actual company website. Okay, for example, if you are typing 77777 in a Word document and upload into any internet site, and that document will be displayed instead of actual company. I think you are able to understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, for example, if you are typing uh, Mercedes Benz Mercedes Benz, you are searching Mercedes Benz. Okay, so instead of redirecting that Mercedes Benz website, um, okay, it's giving, for example, if I'm just typing Mercedes Benz, Mercedes Benz, Mercedes Benz like that in a Word document or in Excel sheet and uploaded in my site, when search engine will search my web page also, so my page also will be is was displaying as a first page instead of mercedes-benz.com. So it was a very big challenge for them to identify the web pages and rank them and index them and providing the appropriate result to the user. It was very challenge. Okay, so for example, I'm searching in this screen, Hadoop is easy and Hadoop is cool and Hadoop is fast. So that's what the original web pages says. So what will happen? So such web pages, it's very difficult to gather all those information and they are standardize them and they are index them. Then uh, publishing it was very difficult. So for that only the Hadoop came into this picture, and it will index like this Hadoop there in web page 1, web page 2, web page 3, web page 1, web page 3, web page 3. Easy there in web page 1, easy there is in web page 1, fast there in web page 3. So every web page how it indexed like this. So this one is done by Hadoop. Okay. So instead of like this, okay, it will properly index and provide the information to the user like this, so that user is able to understand better. Okay, again going to the next slide so that it will be easily understandable for you. For example, here you are typing one website name. Okay, so it will be classified and indexed based on the most popular website to least popular website. So that is called a page ranking. Here, it will be analyzed what are the pages it has the same information, and it provide the page ranking. And based on the page ranking, it will display the information. For example, W1 is the most popular and W4 is the least popular, and W to the next after W1, W2 is the next most popular, W3 is followed by next most popular, but W4 is the least. So like that, the page ranking will rank all the website and displaying the customer so that they are able to find exactly what they needed. Okay, so one more slide I'm going to show. Okay, here for example, user one, and here there are three users: user one, user two, and user three. For example, and user one, you are running a e-commerce site. Okay, there you are selling books. Okay, user one is interested in the book one, book two, okay, and book three, and user two also has a similar interest about book one and book two. So both the user has the similar interest, book one and book two, but the user 2 has interest on B4, but here the user 1 aware about B3, but they are not aware about B4. So what this algorithm is going to give for user 1, it is going to say, hey, you are interested in this book, similar interested people also read book B4. Okay, can you try? Okay, that means it is recommended for you to read B4 also. Like that, we are displaying to for user Y1. Same thing for user Y2. You are giving, hey, B1, B2 is your favorite book. Whosoever reading B1, B2 also reading book B3. So it is a recommended book for you. Like that, we are giving the information to user 2, and user 3 decide exactly. That means different choices, but at least we are getting the common information between the users and recommended based on their interest, and we are displaying for them as a recommended services and recommended reading, etc. So such scenarios we are going for this Hadoop. For that, creating the Hadoop, we are using Amazon EMR in AWS. I think we are typically using machine learning algorithm to bring this kind of thing. So I have a big thing in our upcoming data science classes, data science group. There we are going to um, discuss detail about this, how we are going to write algorithms for such kind of things, so that you will be easily understand. But at this moment, so what I'm trying to say, so this is the purpose we are going to bring Hadoop over here. It's a big data tool, and how we are going to use, how we are going to create Hadoop cluster in EMR, that we are going to talk about next. Okay, hope you are able to understand why we are using this one. Okay, now we are coming to the previous slide. Okay, Amazon Elastic MapReducer, it is called as a EMR. It's a web service tool for big data processing analysis. It's very important. So earlier we have did two tool analysis, service analysis. Both are also analytic tools, but this one is especially for the big data. And Amazon EMR is the industry leading cloud big data platform for processing vast amount of data, such as Apache Spark, Hive, and HBase, like that. Okay, so there are several companies that are trying various tools, but these are the tools are most successful at this moment. And EMR, you can run petabyte scale, that is large amount of data, as you know, and less than half of the cost of traditional on-premises solution, and over 3x faster than standard Apache Spark. Okay, Amazon EMR offers the expandable low configuration service and easier alternative running in host cloud computing. That's very important. Okay, and EMR enables you to quickly and easily provision as much as capacity as you need, and automatically or manually add and remove capacity. It's typically other AWS service also provision same thing, and EMR also is not exceptional from that. Amazon EMR is based on Apache Hadoop and Java-based programming framework that supports a processing of large data set in distributed computing environment. It's another important concept. Okay, so you may understand why we are using the EMR and the concept of EMR. Okay, move to the next slide. And MapReduce is a software framework that allows developers to write programs that process massive amount of unstructured data in parallel across a distributed cluster of processor or standalone computers. Okay, how we are going to write programs, and how we are going to handle the unstructured data, that we are going to have a hands-on in our upcoming big data group. It's going to be launched soon, and there you are able to understand clearly about Hadoop infrastructure framework, everything you are going to talk about in that big data group. But at this moment, you have to understand um, it is one of the tool we are going to use here to create a cluster. Cluster means you need not think much, because it's the combination of multiple instances we are keeping into one database kind of thing. You can assume like that. So Amazon EMR processes big data across a Hadoop cluster of virtual servers on EC2 and S3. Okay, EMR is used for data analysis in a log analysis, web indexing, data warehousing, and machine learning. This kind of situation you can use. Very important. It's a data analysis tool. Okay, and you can use for you can deploy multiple clusters and you can resize a running cluster. Either one you can use. If you need more capacity, you can easily launch a new cluster and terminate it when you no longer needed it. There is no limit to how many clusters you can have. You may want to multiple clusters if you have multiple users or applications. There is no limitation. And it is easy to automatically scale or manually resize the running cluster. You may want to scale out of a cluster to temporarily add more processing power to the cluster, so or scale in your cluster to save cost when you have it ideal capacity. So it's a straightforward information. Okay, moving to the next slide. You are able to see the previous thing, deploy multiple clusters and resize a running cluster here. So I think you are able to understand how the multiple clusters deployed over here and how we are resize running cluster working here. Okay, so if you have any questions, I will talk at the end. And here how the data typically stores S3 or Hadoop distributed file system, DynamoDB, like this we are storing and we are gathering through EMR. And we already talk about this. We already talk about this for your explanation, and we already talk about this. And that's about creating a Hadoop cluster. And we are going to see the hands-on how we are going to create a cluster. That time you are able to understand more. And now AWS database service, a final touch. Whatever we discussed so far, it's a overview. This slide I put especially for your better understanding for exam point of view. It is easy to set up, manage, and maintain, um, and it is always a high availability. Performance is awesome. Access to the full capabilities of 6 database engines that you already know: Oracle and MySQL, SQL Server, like that. You already know that 6 database engines and well managed infrastructure. You need not worry about the infrastructure, just to focus on your business, focus on your database. Everything infrastructure will be taken care by AWS, and it is easily scalable and very cost effective. And any new patching, you don't worry, it will be automatically patched. And you can take up a database snapshot, or you can go for a backup, automated backup, or you can manually set up a backup. These are the main advantage. And moving to the next slide, we already know that it's a cross-region snapshot, because if one region is not available, don't worry, other region you can access and uh, interact with your database. Multi-availability zone deployments, so that no failure. Encryption at rest and in the transit. Okay, when it residing in the AWS database, that is RDS, DynamoDB, whatever it is, while residing in that database or transit from your on-premises to the database, anytime it is well encrypted, so it will be well fine. So it is well secured, fully managed. So you know to specifically you need not take care anything. Low latency queries, that means queries are very fast, lightning fast. And sometimes there will be small latency, but it will not impact your maybe a fraction of less than a second latency sometimes. But mostly you will not face such scenarios, such problems. And a fine-grained access control deploy in VMware, so you have full control. It's a fully managed, as I said, that is no SQL database service, no SQL database service, and regional and global options we have. Your database will go in minute within your region and global. So that's the final touch of this database. All right. Okay, let's go to AWS database service. All right, we'll go to services, and earlier we were in RDS. Now we will go to the database. Yeah, last week we talked about RDS. Now we are going to see DynamoDB. Okay, we are going to create a table, and here is the typical capacity about Northern Virginia where I have been tagged. Okay, create table. I'm going to create a table called as a employee EMP, and the partition key I'm going to use as a employee number, and employee number is going to be a number. I'm not going to add sort key. If you want, you can add that one, and the rest of them I'm just using the default setting, that is no secondary index, provision capacity set of 5 reads and 5 reads. Okay, I can change anything in the letter if I want. So at this moment, I just going with the default settings. You do not have the record role to enable auto scaling by, okay, it's by default, so no need to worry. And our tag, I'm just giving it's a uh, development database, uh, development database. And this about development, I'm going to talk about human resource department. Okay, that employee table. Okay, next we're going to create. So being created here. Okay, so now database is active. So we have successfully created a table. So if you scroll here, okay, so it's a stream enabled. Yes, DynamoDB stream enabled, which we talk about in this slide. And here are the table details. You can update anytime on this one. And the items, that's what we are going to talk about here. And metrics, at this moment, nothing, because we didn't create anything. Just we have created a table with one field that is also employee number. Okay, now it's coming here, and we are create an item. We are creating a new row here. Okay, so there are two types of item. One is the text, another one is tree. Both are both are purpose is same, but appearance is little different. But I will go with the tree so that I'm able to realize, visualize everything. So employee number, I'm going to give employee number as 1,000. Okay, and I'm going to add one more field on that one. Okay, one more attribute. Okay, that is called as a string. Okay, I'm going to add employee first name, and I'm giving some name on that, and I'm going to add one more field. Okay, I'm going to add one more field. Um, okay, number, for example, salary. Okay, so I have created, I have entered some information. I have created these values and saving, and my record has been saved here. Okay, just click here, and you have now able to understand this is the actual table with the number of rows, that is called as items in AWS term, and number of columns. So altogether, uh, this one is attribute, Satya is attribute, Srinivasan is attributes, 10,000 is an attribute, and this is actually a table. And for example, I'm uh, if you want, you can edit, you can duplicate, and you can export to CSV file, and also you can import to CSV file. That also we are going to see. Uh, okay, I'm creating some duplicate um, here, uh, some ABC, and DEF kind of thing. and employee number 1001, and for example, if you are giving 1000, um, okay, because it's a primary number, primary key here, so that's why it was not accepted. Salary, for example, this one, okay, it's accepted now. And I'm cloning these two things so that we have um, more records we have. Okay, so now we have some 3 records so that we can filter, we can scan or query, whatever we can do this one. So scan, what field you want to scan. Okay, employee number. Okay, you want to add more filter if you like. Okay, and you can go with the query also. Okay, for example, I want to query employee number. Okay, only that row will be written. So like that, you can create as many tables over here. And if you see the metrics, now we are able to see some values over here. So it will create metrics automatically. And alarms is a CloudWatch inbuilt so that you are able to see uh, what is going on over there. And capacity, you can define over here, and the indexes. If you are going to use any indexes, you are able to see here. And uh, here you are able to see the global table and other things, and backup if anything. At this moment it's a disabled, and this is a very key concept. DynamoDB maintains continuous backup of your table for the last 35 days. That is very important concept. You will sometimes you will get one questions um, out of 8 candidates, so that you will get easily 1 mark on that one, right? So this about table creation, DynamoDB, and so here you can go for backup, create a backup. You can create a backup anything, and you can purchase reserved capacity so that you can save your cost. And if you have any preference, you can see vertical or horizontal or fully, like this one I'm talking about here. Um, okay, so for example, if I click here, this one we are talking about here, that is the preference. And here about cluster related things, you can create a cluster. um, okay, and we can create a cluster using the EMR. They're both are more or less same, so you are able to see over there. So it's about creating a simple DynamoDB table, and you can change the settings here if you don't want something, and you can uncheck accordingly. All right, so how we are going for the query and all, we will discuss next. And next we'll, but at this moment you just remember how we have created a DynamoDB table. It's very simple. And we'll go to EMR, which we talk about just now. Okay, we are going to create a cluster over here. Okay, consider it's a Hadoop kind of cluster. Both are almost same. Here, what is your cluster name? Okay, just cluster. That's what I'm giving a name. Okay, and launch mode. It's a cluster, and where you want to store your logs. Okay, I leave it as it is. Let's see whether that path is there or not in the S3 folder. But at this moment, okay, here what type of Hadoop version you are going to use, or HBase or Presto, Spark, which type of uh, software you are going to use. I'm going to use the core Hadoop, and I'm going to use AWS Glue Data Catalog, which we discussed already. And instance type, I don't want large, X large size. I want to go for medium, that is sufficient for me, because it is going to be charged accordingly. Okay, starting with the 3 instances, that is 1 master and 2 core nodes. You can stay with the 3 minimum at least, and I don't want to go for any key pairs. If you have already created any key pairs during your EC2 instance creation, that time also you can do that. Okay, I will leave it as permission as default, so I'm creating a cluster. Cluster being created, and cluster, my test cluster is starting. That means we have successfully created, and from there we can analyze all the data, and you can go from there. And here you can configure your security, and you can see the events, what's going on, everything. So just now we have created one cluster, so all those information you have. Okay, so now okay, so AWS CLI export, you can export over here, so that you are able to analyze the data. And here also monitoring is enabled from the CloudWatch, and here all other configuration you can play around and you are able to understand. And if you have any questions, and let me know, I'm happy to help you. So, but this is the basic cluster creation. Okay, and I'm just see here, it is a master provisioning and core also provisioning, everything is fine. It will take the next 1 more minute to complete the status. But everything looks great. So we have successfully created one cluster, but I'm okay. I'm terminating this one because I'm done with that. Okay, next query services. Uh, so here you have to configure your database first. Okay, so you have to choose your database. I didn't created any database, so it is we don't have any. Just you have to create the database, and you can just uh, tag here, so that whatever you are running a query, it will be selected from that table. For example, it's a simple query. You can write here, select a star from employee table, uh, and if you it's a semicolon at the end. So if you are running this query, it will run from the database. So you try from your home and ask me any questions, so that I can help you. No, I want to create more advanced database. Okay, here also you can do that one. For example, if you go to a setting, and you can set query result where you want to store, for example, in S3 bucket. Okay, uh, but that S3 bucket supposed to be uh, that means available. You're supposed to create the bucket over there, so that it will store over there. And format query, how you want to format, for example, all the keywords in the first, then your user defined values next, then we can format anything like that. So it's not a problem for that. And this is the tutorial. You can go for create a table wizard. Okay, you are creating a table here. At this moment, no database or tables found. Okay, next, I'm going to create a new database. My database name is MySQL database, and table name employee bonus, yeah, table name, and where you want to input data set, that S3 bucket. So If we have any bucket, we have to give that S3 bucket name. For example, typically it will start S3 slash slash. For example, we have created one uh, bucket over there, if I'm not wrong. Okay, in that case, you have to just mention that bucket name. If it is exist, it will check. Okay, and how you want to load the data. Okay, data format. If you want to load from the Apache WebLock, yes, or any CSV file you have, yes, or any JSON file, anything you can just take that one, or you have text file with pipe delimited, yes. Okay, at this moment, okay, just you will go with this one, JSON file. Okay, next. Okay, column name. What are the column we are going to choose, and you can add as many columns. For example, I want to add date of joining, and you can use date as the field. That means type, data type. Here, any okay. Um, the example, the employee is still working. Yeah, you want to choose yes or no, so you can go for any boolean type, yes or no type. Okay, like that you can add columns, and for example, exist. Okay, and here date of joining, and next. Okay, can't be any partition you are going to know at this moment. Okay, create table. Okay, it will give you a query. uh, okay, no output location is provided. Output location you're supposed to give in the valid path. Okay, so this one is we have given the input, and next one. Okay, so whatever we have chosen that um, a field over there, and with the data type, it is created that query. Okay, you just run the query so that it will create a database. So you can use this kind of query services in the Athena. What my suggestion is, you try to complete this one at home and let me know. Just you have to run the query. That's all. Yeah, everything is done. And similarly, it's a pipeline, data pipeline, which we talk about today. And here it's a kind of same thing, my pipeline. You know why we are creating the pipeline. Okay, build using a template. uh, okay, how you want to use your template. Okay, for example, I'm going to use my DynamoDB template. Export my DynamoDB table to S3. So my DynamoDB table name employee, and S3 folder name. Do I have any folder? Yes, I have some folders. Okay, in that folder I'm uh, uh, that means deploying my output, and this is throughput ratio, and this is the schedule. um, on schedule 1 day, you can change it accordingly, and ending when you want to end. Okay, I want to end after 5 occurrences, and logging, yes, enabled, because if any errors, I'm able to see what errors I have. So where you want to store in S3. Okay, I'm giving separate S3 folder for that, so that all the logs will be stored in that S3 bucket. And anything you want to give key and value, it's an optional. I just leave it optional there. Pipeline was saved, but there was validation errors. Okay, you can validate those errors, but pipeline was saved. Okay, so this is actually a creation of the pipeline. Okay, and invalid role data pipeline default in slot role. Please make sure that you have role exist and data pipeline has permission to assume the role. Okay, so you have to mention the role, that's all. But even now also it has been created. So otherwise it will throw some that failure error here, but now we done. Okay, here if you have any activity you can copy here, and as we discussed, these are the nodes which we discussed in this slide, data nodes. So for example, it's a MySQL node, and here you can perform or you can choose your actual SQL data node for perform any operation. So this about pipeline, and if you have any questions, yes, pipeline is not active because we didn't activate it. If you activate, then that's all we done. And if you have any questions, let me know. Your pipeline is now active, so object will be visible on pipeline execution. Everything will be done. Okay, all right. No completed execution because we have set up runs every 1 day, so it's not yet happened. So that's why it is not yet completed execution, or it will be done based on as per the schedule we have mentioned over here. Okay, that's all about pipeline. So we have covered Athena, pipeline, and DynamoDB, and we talk about in general touch base with overall concept over here, and what else we did today, and EMR also we talk about that. All right, so hopefully you are able to understand better today, and any questions we are open.
Yes, Satya. So this is Suresh from Chicago. Have a, can you go to the slide that compares SQL Server and DynamoDB, please?
You mean this one?
No, the one prior to it. This is RDS. You had side by side. You had the JSON format on this one right here. So the one that when you created DynamoDB, it showed in a table form, but it is stored in the NoSQL form. That's what it is, right?
Yes. So when we have entered all the information, we have entered NoSQL form. I think you are able to notice that one. But as soon as we are executing, so it displays like this. Yes.
Okay. So my question is, when you look at your left, which is SQL, the ISBN, title, author, and format is metadata of that table, right? But what I understand from this NoSQL format is that the metadata is in the records itself. Am I correct?
Okay, you mean technically you are talking about the columns you are saying that, or
yeah.
Okay, yeah, correct.
That is correct, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So then, if that is correct, you talked about key and values, right? So for every record in this, or when I say a record, I'm talking about the whole JSON document record, right? So the ISBN is the key, and the value is 918.293.246.
Yeah,
that's okay. I just want to make sure my understanding is correct.
Correct. Yes.
If anyone doesn't have any questions on DynamoDB, I can move on to Athena. I have a question on.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just leaving it open for people.
Sure.
Okay, so this architecture picture. So can I, from this, can I assume that Athena is some kind of ETL for AWS? It may be ETL services.
Yeah, you can use ETL services also. Yes.
So Athena is basically a ETL service.
No, Athena is a serverless query services.
Query services. So here I see AWS Glue, and I see Glue Data Catalog. So is AWS Glue, runs, goes after all those things that you have on the left, like
Yes,
database, external file,
absolutely.
REST
Yes.
APIs, and then bring in the metadata and store it in Glue data catalog?
Yes. Consider you have big data, Cassandra database, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have a Cassandra database and you have some external file, okay, related with the big data. Okay, consider Hive. So still you can use your data warehousing or big data tables over here into AWS Glue. From there, you are able to process and analyze by Athena and provide the result. Yes.
Okay. So, my question is that AWS Glue is a runtime service that, brings in the metadata, or it can be done like, prior to you operate, because data lake, if you store it in HDFS, you need to have a catalog to go with it, right? Because HDFS store,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this can be done prior to using Athena, or you can also use it as a runtime service. That's my.
Yeah, it is a runtime service. For example, if you are changing your Cassandra database values, or for example, you have million record when you are running this Athena query, but after that 500k records you have newly added, and 100 records you have updated, and 2 records you have deleted. Okay, so it will immediately reflected in that Athena query and that result.
Okay. So, and another question, the bottom of the streaming services, Kinesis Streams.
Yeah.
Say if I am streaming some information from IoT device, right? And that, AWS Glue cannot support that to create a data catalog, or is that it has to be a separate thing? Yeah.
No, it's not a separate thing. You can use Kinesis also for that kind of streaming.
Okay. So, the way now, you explained that Athena is just a querying service, right? Just like you use SSMS or Toad or whatever, right? That's my.
No, there will be significant difference between Toad and Athena. Okay, because the Toad, if you are running a complex query, it will take at least some minutes.
Right.
To provide the result. But Athena is not like that. Even it's a complex query, it will be very fast because the parallel query processing.
Okay,
for example,
MPP. So you're talking about MPP processing.
Yeah. So that means, for example, in Toad, if you have 10 subqueries within that query, so one query will execute one after like that only.
Right. It's a sequential transaction based. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in Athena, it's not like that. All 10 subqueries will run separately, and the result will be merged and displayed to you.
Okay. So the other question I when I was looking at you explaining data pipeline, I look at it as workflow management. Is that a true statement?
Workflow management in terms of
different services that I can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's it. Thanks a lot. Excellent question, as always.
Did I answer your questions?
Yes.
All right.
Satya, this is Rajesh. This related to Suresh's question. Related to Suresh's question, and I wouldn't call that as a ETL, but you're right. But can I compare that as with the Oracle Business Intelligence, OBIE? It's a data analytical tool, right, which is integrated with the database directly, correct?
Actually, in between, I got one pop-up message and your voice was breaking. I was able to understand. Okay, so in between some mistake, some pop-up came, so your voice was not audible. Is it possible to reiterate your question?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, it's related to Suresh's question. Instead of we wouldn't call that as a ETL. can I compare that with the Oracle Business Intelligence OBAE? It's a data analytical tool which integrates directly with the database, correct? It's in
yes. So you are talking about Athena, whether it will be compared. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what you have to do in that case, you have to point two separate database with Athena, and you have to query separately. Then you have to merge both of them.
So now,
Okay.
Rajesh opened up a question for me.
Uh-huh.
So OBIE is a business intelligence tool, like, something like, Tableau or Power BIs of the world, right? So are you saying that, Athena has got dashboard building capabilities too?
I think you have to reiterate your question. So
Okay.
can you reiterate? Yeah.
Yeah. So, Tableau, right? It's a BI tool.
Yeah.
Power BI is Microsoft's BI.
Yeah.
Which can plug into the databases for analytics service, analytics, doing analytics, predictive or descriptive, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And the OBI EE is similar to that. So my question is, Athena does have dashboard building capabilities too?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, if you see the architecture, you are able to understand the dashboard features.
Piece? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So I know these kind of questions will come. That's why I was ensure I am including as much of information possible in my presentation.
Thanks.
That's very nice, Satya. Satya, I have a second question, Satya. Which is like Amazon ODS, right? ODS is like, do they provide the infrastructure, or do they help the customer to install the database and maintain, patch up everything, or just they do only give the platform?
They will give you a platform, and the patching, everything will be taken care by RDS. So we need not worry about what's going on over there. So you can just upload your database. That's all.
Okay. Then my second question is, when the weekly maintenance or monthly maintenance is happening, is the RDS is going to be take the DB instance to offline and do the patch, or just
actually how it works, anyway, it is a multi availability zone. Okay, whenever you are creating any RDS, it is going to be more than one availability zone. So in that case, where your RDS is located, okay, that RDS when it's going to be for patching or any monthly maintenance, what will happen? Another availability zone database will be mapped to your instances, and actual original thing will be taken into offline, and they are doing the patching and regular maintenance. So meanwhile, you are accessing another availability zone database. Okay, once it will be done, that going for the offline, and your original availability zone database will be available for you. Like that, it will be rotate so that it is always available for you, even though there is some patching or some maintenance work is in progress.
Okay, but if that will work only if the zones are shareable, right?
By default, yes, it is a shareable.
Okay. My last question is, Satya. See, to import the data into RDS, right? So why do they don't have a common tool, like, for an example, Oracle, right? They are saying like for us to use a data pump or import, export, or SQL loader. And in MariaDB, they have something else, right? SQL Server, they have something else. They don't have any common service to do for all these databases. Still, it is database dependency, right?
Yes. Actually, RDS, they have 6 database engines. We already know that, right? So if you have unstructured database, still we can use Amazon Aurora for that. So any database, whether it is a structured or unstructured, still you can go with RDS, because they have already planned and proven database engines they have. So I think still we are good over there.
Okay, so do they support RDS support Amazon RDS supports all version of the databases for Oracle, for example, 9,
yes.
12c? They do?
Yes, but they don't have the classic Oracle 6 and below.
Okay. Okay.
For example, if I want to show you. Meanwhile, yesterday presentation took me 10 hours to complete.
I know it's a lot of slides. Yeah, it's a lot of topic covered. You covered today.
I don't know how we are going to repay the debt that we owe.
If you are able to use this one, that is the great thing for me.
Just pass the exam, Suresh. That's appreciation to Satya.
Yeah.
So he definitely, taught this old dog some new tricks.
Yep.
So here we have selected Oracle.
Right.
So here Oracle version is 19. So you can choose what version you want to.
What is the most least version, Satya? Can you
So
go down?
11, Oracle 11.
Oh, okay.
And the minor version is 2.0.4.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the latest is Oracle 19. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yep.
like that
Thank
you
you.
can choose. You are it's fine, right? Understandable?
Yep. It's completely got it. Yeah. Thanks. I'll pass on to others. Thanks.
Sure. Any more questions?
Satya, I have a question. You said that the DynamoDB, I believe the table is created with the primary key, right?
Yeah.
So can we not create a table without a key at all?
The primary is to have a primary key.
Okay, but so then what if like you wanted to sometimes like access the records by when it came or like that? The record inserted key device like that.
Okay, so you're supposed to have a primary key. So then only it is unique to identify that particular item. Item means here it's a rows. So it's mandatory to have.
Oh, okay.
It's supposed to not be null. Yeah.
Date stamp as one of the items if you want to do. Yeah.
See, what we have is like I work in DB2. We can create the primary file without the key, and then for that primary file we create a lot of logical files. Even the primary file can be created with the key and without the key also. Yeah. So if we create without the key, you can access the records like how it by the inserted wise.
So are you talking about the DB2 on OS 390?
I work in AS400, yeah.
Oh, DB2 400, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So basically, behind that is called LDS. Mm-hmm. It is called as linear data set. Mm-hmm. So it is actually a sequential entry. That's why you were able to do that on DB2 400.
Right, yeah, the sequential entry, yeah. So, okay. Yeah.
You are able to see my screen? You are able to see my screen?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I was trying to create a DynamoDB table with name is EMP1. I didn't given any primary key here, and directly I have clicked create. Okay, I got this error. That means you have to create at least one. That means you have to put one primary key.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah,
so
the
otherwise,
DB2
Yeah, otherwise it will not create.
Oh, okay. So in the DB2 400, we don't need to. So there's something called relative record number. We can access the file by that also. So
that's why it is a little faster than DB2.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So when here also the same concept, like say when you delete the records in between, say you have records like employee 1, 2, 3, 4, and employee 3 leaves. So you'll go and delete the record. So tomorrow when there's a employee 5 is going to come in, will that space be used, or what will happen to that space?
Yes. It's going to be used. Yes.
Okay.
The answer question?
Yeah.
All right. Any questions?
So Satya, though, the database, whatever we are creating, for example, if we create an Oracle database, can I connect it with our SQL developer from my desktop?
Okay, so you are saying that you on premises you have SQL Server database, right?
Yeah, I have a SQL Server tool.
Okay.
Can I connect the?
What tool you have?
I have SQL developer.
Okay.
And I wanted to connect the database I created in AWS.
Okay. Yes, you can.
Okay, and
so for that, what you have to go? What you have to do? You have to click the pipeline, right? The AWS pipeline we have created, right? There we have created DynamoDB2 S3 bucket. I have configured, right? Did you see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of that, you can create on-premises to S3.
Okay.
So in that case, on-premises database you have to configure over there. That is your Oracle database. So that that Oracle database will be mapped into that S3 bucket. From the S3 bucket, again you have to create one more template, and you can connect with the SQL Server, which already in AWS. It is not complicated.
So basically you do is you enter connection string, right? From your tool. If it is on-prem, you enter the connection string to connect to the server and then the database. You will do something similar if your database sits on AWS and RDS.
Yeah, I wanted to know the service name and the other details if I wanted to connect from SQL developer.
So it is a string, right? So, it is whatever you store, it is a URL. So that's what you would provide. I'm just assuming. I'm just thinking of, that's how we do in Azure. And I'm thinking that it's similar in AWS.
Okay, I'll try then.
But the firewall and everything needs to be configured. Without that, it cannot connect.
Yes. So, if your RDS is sitting on a VPC, then, either you should have a VPN connection or like someone said, the WAF has to be open for you to access, whether you're within a network or outside of your company's network.
It's all based on the certificate, right?
SSL, yeah.
Yeah, because there's no port configured, nothing, right? It's all URL based. Yeah.
All right. Jaykumar, is it your question have been answered or?
Yeah, it's answered. Only thing I need to try it out.
Yeah, try it out and let us know. Any more questions from anyone?
Satya.
What's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, something you asked me.
No, I said very good session. Thank you. Someone else asked some question. Yeah.
As usual, it was a fantastic session. 2 hours well spent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Satya. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Satya.
Thank you, Satya.